Welcome everyone to my Sorcerer's Cup Meta Simplified guide, and this is the third time I'm recording this. The previous two recordings failed bad, and I don't know if this is going to be as good as before or not. So this Meta Simplified guide is based on my personal opinion about how the mons play around each other, and I group them based on my personal preference and the utility that they possess. And I deliberately left out a lot of mons because I think that they act as specialists. I couldn't actually group them into something. Like, suppose I cannot group Munchlax and Linoon into the same group because they are normal types. Like, yeah, they have the same weakness, but their matchups are completely different. Like, Munchlax acts as a licker, but while Linoon acts as a closer Pokemon. And so I swapped them a lot, and I will not include a lot of mons in this specific infographic. This, I believe, is the core of the Sorcerer's Cup, and I am going to talk about the specialist / the wildcards on the next video upcoming this week. So let's get into it. So I divided the groups into 6 different categories. Namely the Poison Darks with AlolanMuk Skuntank, the Ices, the Fairy types with Azumarill and the Charmers, the Psychic Confusion users, the Fighters, that is the counter users, and lastly the normal types. So let's get into their matchups. AlolanMuk, I believe, is one of the best Poison Dart there is. It's really high ranked in the PV Poke, and all of their movesets are depending on the PV Poke recommended set. I have not changed any of their moveset. I am just going to run all the sims and everything depending on the PV Poke recommended moveset. So AlolanMuk with Snarl, Dark Pulse and Sludge Wave, and Skuntank with Poison Jab, Crunch and Sludge Bomb. So the main thing they cover is the confusion users, and they crush Hypno and Bronzong. Like, it's not even a close matchup, although do keep an eye for the Bulldoze from Bronzong if it has loaded energy, but you can even farm down Hypno if you want. It's such a clean matchup. I will not show their matchups, it's just clean. You win them. The next major thing that AlolanMuk has over Skuntank is the Frostless matchup, because AlolanMuk beats Frostless in the one shield, which is pretty clean. It has 15 HP left, but it does lose in the 2 shield matchup, so keep that in mind. While Skuntank loses to Frostless, and AlolanMuk tanks the Avalanche, and Skuntank cannot really tank an Avalanche and just gets KO'd. But if you look carefully, Skuntank has a Crunch charged. So if Skuntank swapped in, so suppose it has 14 extra energy, so Skuntank actually flips this matchup and wins with over 100 HP left in the one shield, not the 2 shields. In the 2 shields it will still lose to Frostless. So there's that. And if you could see, the Avalanche is almost charged, and Frostless will probably win the CMP, but I recommend everyone to run the best possible Skuntank as possible. I'm best as in the bulkiest possible with lower attack, so Frostless in general will win this match because it will get the CMP. Now, what Muk and Skuntank struggles against is Glalie, because Glalie wins versus AlolanMuk. Street Avalanche, it tanks a Sludge Wave and wins Avalanche, and it beats Skuntank too. The infographic is a bit incorrect because I made a mistake while editing. So Glalie actually beats Skuntank and Skuntank doesn't really beat Glalie, so keep that in mind. And Alolan Sandslash, you don't beat. Alolan Sandslash can just go straight bulldoze and KO both AlolanMuk and Skuntank, and I will not show this matchup. So the next group I would like to talk about is the fairies. So versus Azumarill, the recommended moveset is Hydro Pump and Play Rough. So here Azumarill baits a Play Rough and lands the Hydro Pump. So Azumarill has to land the Hydro Pump to win. If it goes straight Play Rough, let's see if it wins or not. It doesn't, because AlolanMuk, even after landing the Sludge Wave, will get to another Dark Pulse if they try to go for a double Play Rough. So it's a baiting matchup. Even though if it's a baiting matchup, AlolanMuk has just 2 HP left, so it's not a clear win for either Azumarill or Muk, but probably the Mon with higher energy will win this matchup, and will depend on how you call out your enemy bluffs and whatnot. And the same goes for the Charmers. So one note here is AlolanMuk has to bait a Dark Pulse and land the Sludge Wave. This is versus Wigglytuff, and versus Clefable it's basically the same matchup. So bait Dark Pulse, land Sludge Wave, you win. But if you don't get the bait off, you lose. So let's move this into the sandbox mode. So suppose you went for double Sludge Waves. You actually will not get the last Sludge Wave. Can you tap? See, the Sludge Wave, you will not get to a second Sludge Wave. A Dark Pulse is charged. So you have to bait, number 1. And number 2 is your opponent has to call out the bait or do whatnot. If you do not get the bait, you just get demolished by Wigglytuff. See, like Wigglytuff here has about 174 HP left. It's not really a clean matchup versus the Charmers, which you might think. But what Skuntank has over AlolanMuk is the fairy matchups, because Skuntank can beat the fairies very clean. So versus Azumarill, you can even go double Sludge Bomb and win these matchups. I'm not going to show it separately. The meta score is very high and it's pretty clean. Versus Wigglytuff, it's basically the same. Land the Sludge Bomb to win. It's way cleaner than AlolanMuk because poison jabs do a lot of damage. And the same goes for Clefable. Skuntank wins clean. They don't even get to a charge move. So this was versus the fairy types. And lastly, now the real iffy part starts. Versus the normal types, it's very weird. Like Munchlax. Here Munchlax got the bait and landed the bulldoze for the KO, so the Sims are not representing a real life situation. Here everyone got the perfect bait, landed the perfect move. But what I prefer, even if your opponent goes straight body slam, Munchlax wins. But if you see here, AlolanMuk has a Dark Pulse charged. So if AlolanMuk is suppose 1 or 2 snarls ahead, AlolanMuk completely flips the matchup and has about 30 HP left. So with just 2 snarls, it just flips this matchup. So this is Munchlax not really a good counter for AlolanMuk, but it can play the matchup. But if they land the bulldoze, it's GG. Land the bulldoze, it's over. And versus Skuntank, it's almost the same. You don't even need bulldoze, you just go straight body slam. And Munchlax wins, but again a crunch is charged. If Skuntank is leading in energy, Munchlax will not win this matchup. So keep that in mind. And the same goes for the other lickers, which is namely Licky and Lickitung. Here they planted the Earthquake and basically one-shot AlolanMuk. And the same applies for all 3. They are basically the same. They do basically the same thing, just they have something over Munchlax because Earthquake is a better move in general, and Licky is a bit bulkier than Munchlax. Munchlax has a lot of HP but lower defenses, but Licky has both HP and defense, so that's that. It basically depends on your personal preference, and the same applies for Skuntank. And versus the fighters, you lose bad. Moving on to the fairy types, their major strength is versus the fighters. Now this is very weird. Up until this point, I actually used my Toxicroak to counter Azumarill, but it's so weird. Like in GBL, everyone used Toxicroak to Sludge Bomb down the Azumarill, right? But with Player of Hydro Pump set, Azumarill goes straight Player of and wins. Now this, it has 1 HP left, but I am assuming everyone has a very good PvP IV Azumarill, because why not, man? Like, they have been using Azumarill for over a year now. You should have a good IV Azumarill, and if you don't, please make one. Now I'm going to maximize the IVs and see. Azumarill has 9 HP left. It gets a bulk point because of the maximizing IVs, and it goes straight Player of and wins. It even tanks a Sludge Bomb, guys. Like, this is so weird. Azumarill, Toxicroak doesn't really counter Azumarill, but it does beat it in the 2-shield matchup. And versus Wigglytuff and Clefable, I grouped them into the same category because they basically have literally the same matchups except for one single matchup, and I'm going to get to that later. And this is basically the strengths. And Wigglytuff, Clefable, you just shield once, farm down both fighters. It's very clean. Shield once, farm down. Now, moving on to the confusion users. Now this is where Azumarill struggles a bit. Versus Hypno, it's very close, but Azumarill loses. It's very close. Like, Hypno has 4 HP left. It can go straight Thunder Punch, and my recommended set is Thunder Punch Shadow Ball, so I'm running that. Even after landing the Hydro Pump, it wins with 4 HP left. But what Wigglytuff has over Azumarill is the Hypno matchup. So here Wigglytuff wins clean with 2 HP left. What you do is you do not throw. If you don't throw versus Hypno, you have 20 HP left and 78 energy. You just shield this, shield once, and you farm down the try to farm down the Hypno, and you will have a lot of energy left for the upcoming mons and 20 HP left. But remember, this is with default IVs. This is very strange. If you maximize the IVs, it actually results in a simultaneous KO. So you will want default IVs on Wigglytuff because it reaches an attack breakpoint over 6 or 7. It reaches an attack breakpoint at 115 attack. It has 11 charm damage, so keep that in mind. Default IV wins, and the maximized IV doesn't. Like, it's very weird. This is where, and this is the same thing where Clefable struggles, because Clefable doesn't beat Hypno because Hypno can land the Shadow Ball and KO Clefable. This is a very iffy matchup. I will not get into the details. Hypno can go straight Thunder Punch and beat Clefable, same as Azumarill, but Wigglytuff, Hypno actually loses. Now what Azumarill has over the other fairies is the Bronzong matchup. With Bronzong, you go straight Hydro Pump and you win. You go straight Hydro Pump and you have 42 HP left, you win. The rest fairies, they do not beat Bronzong. Versus the Lickers, Azumarill can go straight Hydro Pump and win, but here it has a Body Slam charged. So suppose it has Player Off. So with Player Off, Azumarill wins harder. But again, they have a Body Slam charged. If Munchlax if you swapped in onto the Munchlax, you would probably lose this matchup, because if suppose 3 or 4 licks extra, Munchlax flips this matchup in the 1 shield. In the 2 shield, you win because Azumarill is bulkier than Munchlax. And versus Wigglytuff, let's see how Munchlax does. Wigglytuff has this matchup. Because of your normal typing, these licks are doing 2 damage. That's very low damage compared to the other mons. So Wigglytuff looking very good. In some cases looking better than Azumarill with the Hypno and Munchlax matchup. But Clefable, again, Clefable doesn't have this matchup as good as Wigglytuff. So here Munchlax actually wins. If you do not throw, Clefable wins, but Munchlax has a Body Slam charge. So you cannot swap, again you cannot swap into a Munchlax, you will lose the matchup. And the other lickers, namely Lickitung and Lickilicky, basically the same matchup versus Clefable and Azumarill. Clefable and Wigglytuff, do not throw, you win. And versus Azumarill cannot win versus Lickitung because of its Power Whip. Lickitung has this matchup clean, just lands a Power Whip, lands a Body Slam, Lickitung wins. Like you can play over this matchup, but you will probably lose this matchup. But versus Munchlax and Lickilicky, it's way closer. So this is where Lickitung has its own different matchups. What Azumarill has over the rest two is the fairy matchups, because Azumarill can beat both the fairy types and it's pretty clean. It has 32 HP left. It's basically the same versus Wigglytuff and it wins. And versus Wigglytuff, Clefable. Moving on to the normal types, again they have Lickilicky and Lickitung have almost the same matchup, so I grouped them same, but Lickitung wins versus Azumarill as previously discussed, and Lickilicky, it's iffy, like it has a Body Slam charge and whatnot. Like you can run the sims in PvPoke and see for yourself what happens. And now what the lickers shine is versus AlolanMuks. So although AlolanMuks can flip this matchup with energy, if you safe swap into an AlolanMuk or Skuntank, and if you safe swap, you actually win this matchup. Like they cannot switch into a Munchlax, because even 1 or 2 licks earlier, they'll get an extra Body Slam and KO. And Munchlax, land the Bulldoze, GG's, both Skuntank and AlolanMuk. So AlolanMuk and Skuntank can win against these normals, but they are very situational. They have to have an energy advantage over them to win versus them, and even then they have to shield the Bulldoze and Earthquake respectively. So they can win, but their wins are very marginal. But the lickers, they can just go straight Body Slam, spam the shit out of this Poison Darks. Versus, I already talked about the Azumarill matchup. Now I would like to show you the Clefable matchup. You win if Clefable throws, you lose if Clefable doesn't throw, but you have a Body Slam charge. So again, with energy, Munchlax will win. The same applies for Lickilicky and Lickitung. What Lickitung has over them is the Azumarill matchup. I showed that before. And the other thing that they shine is versus Frostlass, because they can lick down. Licks do a lot of damage versus Frostlass, 3 damage. And Munchlax has to land a Bulldoze to win, because if it doesn't land the Bulldoze, Frostlass gets to another Avalanche and it KOs Munchlax. But what Lickilicky and both Lickitung have over Munchlax is, so Lickilicky goes straight Body Slam and wins versus Frostlass. This is very crazy. Like their licks are doing 4 damage, that's 1 extra damage than Munchlax, and that's the key to win versus Frostlass. You can go straight Body Slam and win versus Frostlass, and that's any lickers except for the Munchlax. And Munchlax versus Glalie, Munchlax wins, but Glalie has almost an Avalanche charge. What about Lickilicky? Let's see the Glalie matchup. So Lickilicky wins, it's close, but Lickilicky wins this. It's very close, but let's maximize IVs. Lickilicky gets a breakpoint and has 6 HP left. And now moving on to Alolan's Sand Slash. Let's see how it does. So Munchlax wins with just straight Body Slam. With Bulldoze, it wins harder. if it has Bulldoze. And let's see the other Glalie. Again, Licky wins. It lands the Earthquake. What if we try to go straight Body Slam? Can you win? Yes, you can win with straight Body Slams. You do not need to land the Earthquake. Straight Body Slam win. Lickitung, basically the same matchup as Licky. Another group they beat is the Hypno. So they are very good versus the Ice types, right? And versus the Confusion users, again, they are very good. So the Lickers are countering a lot of other groups, although I didn't give the arrows because it's going to make the infographic very messy. So here it beats Hypno, straight Lick and Body Slam, although Hypno has a Thunder Punch charged. Licky and Lickitung basically the same. And versus Bronzong, you go straight Body Slam. You don't even need the Bulldoze. You go straight Body Slam and you win versus Bronzong. So keep that in mind. And versus the other Lickers, it's basically a match about Body Slam spam. Versus the other Lickers, Munchlax wins, but look how many Body Slam it has to land, man. It's crazy. So you must have a good IV Munchlax to win this. Munchlax beats Licky and Lickitung. Moving on to the Confusion users, what the best quality of they have is versus the fighters. They demolish the fighters. Both Toxicroak and Hypno can just, you don't even need to shield. Even if Toxicroak 2 shields you can take them down straight Confusion. Bronzong, same. But what Bronzong lacks is the Medicham matchup, and I did not know this. Medicham, if it's running Dynamic Punch, remember, if it's running Dynamic Punch, the suggested moveset is Power Up Punch and Psychic. From PV Poke, you can run any set you like, it's your personal preference. Medicham can go straight Dynamic Punch and KO Bronzong, guys. Like, this is crazy. So this is Bronzong and Hypno matchups. What Hypno has over Bronzong is, like I said before, a Azumarill. Hypno goes straight Thunder Punch and KOs Azumarill. Although it's close, but Hypno wins this match. Bronzong cannot beat Azumarill, but what Bronzong has over Hypno is the Wigglytuff matchup. As you saw previously, Wigglytuff actually won out versus a default IV Wigglytuff 1. But Bronzong, it's not even close. Bronzong can even farm a little bit, and you can farm a little bit more and throw versus the Wigglytuff and win. Because Charms are doing a lot less damage to Bronzong because of its typing. Versus Munchlax, it's very iffy. So here Munchlax goes straight Body Slam, but Hypno has a Thunder Punch charged. So let's say you have 2 Confusions extra, Munchlax still wins. It's close, but Munchlax can win out this match. So they do not really have the normal types, but it's very close. I will not bet on normal types to defeat Hypno. But versus Bronzong, it's way closer. They can just straight Lick and Body Slam down. Moving on to the Ice types, Frostlass beats both. I will not show Frostlass can go straight Shadow Ball and knock out both Hypno and Bronzong. But versus Glalie, it's very close. Versus Glalie has to get the Avalanche bait. If it doesn't get the bait, it loses. It cannot go straight Shadow Ball. If it goes straight Shadow Ball, Hypno wins. So this is a very iffy matchup for Glalie. And versus Bronzong, Glalie wins. And if it goes straight Shadow Ball, it still wins versus Bronzong. So Bronzong might seem like a side creed, but what Bronzong has over Hypno is the Alolan Sandslash matchup. Versus Hypno, it's pretty close, but versus Bronzong can straight go Bulldoze and KO Alolan Sandslash. But versus Hypno will win here, but if your Alolan Sandslash has a bit of energy left. You see here, suppose it has 32 energy, right? So let's give it 3 powders. Sandslash actually flips this matchup if it has a bit of energy. So, but versus Bronzong, it's way closer. Bronzong can go straight Bulldoze and win. So this is where Bronzong shines over Hypno. And what Hypno has over Bronzong is the Psychic matchups themselves. Hypno can straight Shadow Ball down Hypno. Bronzong. Straight Shadow Ball, you win. So Bronzong definitely a side grade, but I will not rule it out. Where Frostlass shines is the Frostlass has matchups all over the place. Like it beats stuff that other ice types doesn't and whatnot. So Frostlass can beat both Bronzong and Hypno straight Shadow Ball, which Glalie and Alolan Sandslash can't. I talked about their matchups previously. I showed you Glalie has to get the bait. Frostlass straight Shadow Ball and wins. Even if they land the Thunder Punch, Frostlass will win this. It will survive and land the Shadow Ball. Versus Glalie, you have to land the bait. Versus Bronzong, it's basically the same. So this is where Frostlass edges out the other ice types. And where it also shines is versus Skuntank. It wins, but versus AlolanMuk you lose. But Glalie, what Glalie has over Frostlass is the Muk matchup. Glalie wins this matchup straight Avalanche. Even if Muk has a bit of energy, Glalie, it doesn't matter because if you can see, it has 0 energy here, it's not even close. But Frostlass loses versus Muk. Alolan Sandslash has over the other ice types is solidifying the Poison Dark matchups. It can go straight Bulldoze and knock out both Skuntank and AlolanMuk unless Skuntank is running Flamethrower. Unless. If it has Flamethrower, yeah, if it has Flamethrower, no, you cannot go straight Bulldoze, but you can still bait. You can still bait and win. But Sludge Bomb, you win. Now let's see the Muk matchup. Again, you can go straight Sludge Bomb. You can go straight Bulldoze and win versus AlolanMuk in both 1 and 2 shielding scenarios. So solid. So now what Frostlass has over the other ice types is the fighters, because Frostlass actually beats both Toxicroak and Medicham. Versus Medicham, it can go straight Shadow Ball. Versus Toxicroak, you go straight Avalanche and win. You have 25 HPs left, but Glalie and Sandslash, Toxicroak and Medicham can literally farm them down. But Frostlass, they can't, they actually lose versus Frostlass. And this is where Frostlass shines, but where Frostlass lacks is versus the Wigglytuff and the Clefairies. They can charm down Frostlass. They don't even need to throw, they can charm down Frostlass. But versus Glalie, this matchups is very close. Versus Glalie, it has a simultaneous KO, and versus Alolan Sandslash, straight Ice Punch. Alolan Sandslash can straight Ice Punch down Wigglytuff, it's not even close. So Alolan Sandslash with its Steel typing edges out the others and wins the Fairy matchups, but again it loses versus Azumarill. Both Glalie and Sandslash lose to Azumarill. But Frostlass, on the other hand, it's... So here if you could see, Azumarill goes straight Play Rough and you land a Shadow Ball, right? But what if you have a lot of energy? So suppose you have 3 extra powder. So if you have 3 extra powder stones, I am not going to do the sandbox mode. I have to put it in the sandbox mode. Azumarill has to shield twice. Azumarill cannot tank 2 Shadow Balls. After landing, the second Shadow Ball will definitely KO Azumarill. So keep that in mind. If Frostlass has a bit of energy, Azumarill has to shield twice to win, or in the one shield it will lose with double Shadow Ball. And Glalie and Sandslash don't really have them. So they have better matches versus the Charm users, but worse matchup versus Azumarill. Frostlass worse matchup versus Charm users, better matchups versus Azumarill, and fighters. But where Alolan Sandslash shines is the Charmer. So what will come down to is your team's weakness. So if your team is a bit weak to Poison Darts, namely AlolanMuk, you put Alolan Sandslash on your team, strengthening your Charm weakness and Poison Dart weakness. If you're feeling that your team is kind of weak to Toxicroak or Medicham, bring in Frostlass. The last group I would like to talk about is the fighters, and they have very straightforward matches. Toxicroak, Medicham, mauls AlolanMuk. Like Toxicroak can even farm him a bit more and KO. Like 41 HP left, clean matchups. They lose versus the Confusion users, but Medicham wins versus Bronzong. Keep that in mind. Medicham versus Bronzong. Bronzong loses. What they both have is they can beat both the Poison Darts and the Lickers, normal types. It's not even close. Like Toxicroak will tank, even if it gets this Body Slam off, Toxicroak will still win. Same goes for Medicham. Like it's cleaner with Medicham. You go straight. The recommended set is Power Up Punch and Psychic, so let's run that. So you go straight Power Up Punch and Psychic and win versus them. You just go straight Power Up Punch and ramp it up. And you beat the Glalie and Alolan Sandslash. Specifically, Medicham has them too. I will not show their matchups separately. So yeah, Toxicroak shield ones, farm down the ice types except for Frostlass, both of them lose. What Medicham has over Toxicroak is that fighters matchup itself, because Medicham actually beats Toxicroak. So you need to Power Up Punch and then land the Psychic to win versus the Toxicroak matchup. So it's close, but you do win it. But versus other sets, Toxicroak wins, and this kind of sums up the whole meta versus the core meta of the Sorcerer's Cup. 6 different groups. You can pick 6 mons from 6 groups and have a very balanced team, or you can pick a few wild cards and surprise your opponents, which I am going to do a video on upcoming this week. So stay tuned for that. I hope this video helped. I know like this video you might seem like the infographics look a lot like Battle Heroes, which they do. I actually copied him in this regard, but I wanted to show each groups beating every group and the close matchups there was. Thank you for watching. This is Pawan Ahmed signing out.